Now, what does the word beats in beats per minute actually mean? Well, music is divided in bars, which is also known as measures in traditional music theory. These bars normally contain 4 beats, meaning that each bar is divided into 4 equal sections. Now, a bar can contain more than 4 beats, and this would be determined by something known as the time signature. However, in most popular music, the time signature that is used is 4/4, which basically means 4 beats in a bar. Now, in pretty much all DAWs, such as Ableton Live and Logic Pro, you can actually see the beats and bars represented via the grid lines in the arrangement section. Now, you can see these beats and bars, and this makes it easy for you to place your musical elements in the right places in order to conform to a specific tempo. If you look over here, the beginning of bar 1 starts here, and it's represented by the number 1 on the ruler. Then we've got beat 2 in bar 1, beat 3, and beat 4. And then the beginning of bar 2 starts. And these are your 4 equal divisions in the bar. Now, of course, a bar can have more divisions. And if we zoom in, you can start to see now from here to here, it's an eighth of a bar. And then from here to here, it's another eighth. However, this is 1 beat's worth of length. Now, just to elaborate on this, a bar is divided into 4 equal beats. These 4 equal beats musically can also be written as quarter notes. This means 1/4. If you zoom in, you can see the 8th note divisions in the bar, which means you take 1 bar and you divide it into 8 equal sections. So let's say you wanted to create a drum rhythm. You could have your kick drum play on every beat, and perhaps your hi-hat play on every 8th of a bar. So your hi-hat is playing at double the speed of the kick drum. You could zoom in further and you can see a bar divided into 16 equal sections. This just makes it easy for you to create any kind of rhythm that you want by using the grid lines to guide you for where to place your sounds. Now, I just want to explain a little bit about time signature, although I don't want you to worry about it too much, because most music, as I said, is composed using this exact structure, 4 beats per bar. However, we could change this to 5 beats per bar. If you look at where the mouse is, the first number here changes how many beats there are per bar. So if I go to 6 and we look at the bar here, now 1 until 2, there are 6 even divisions. You see it goes up to 1.6 and then to 2. Some jazz music and classical music is composed using 6 beats per bar. But because it's easier to follow and easier to dance to, and essentially more repetitive using 4 beats per bar, this is why most house music, techno, pop music, rock music, they all tend to use the structure of 4 beats per bar. Now, I just want to quickly show you that this is essentially very similar in all other DAWs. So we're going to have a quick look at Logic Pro. Here you've got the grid lines. It's also known as the ruler. If I zoom out, you can see the beginning of bar 1 is here. The beginning of bar 2 is here. And the 4 beats in the bar, the 4 equal divisions, are represented by solid lines going across the whole arrangement. Here, 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 and here. And if I zoom in further, you can actually see the numbers. 1, you've got 1.2 here, 1.3, and 1.4. Of course, you've got the 8th bar divisions, or also known as 8th notes, the 16th notes. And if you zoomed in further, you could get very, very high number of divisions. And we can also change the time signature, so the number of beats in the bar, over here. So we could have 5 beats per bar, 6 beats per bar, or a totally custom number of beats per bar. And then if we go to Studio One, again, very much the same story. the beginning of bar 1 here, the beginning of bar 2, and the beat divisions within the bar. And we can change how many beats there are in a bar with the time signature symbol down here. Before I move on, I just want to explain a little bit of the musical terminology that you may come across. One bar, as I said, in traditional music theory is known as a measure, but it is also known as a whole note. The reason why I'm telling you this is because you may come across 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, and they'll be called a quarter note, an eighth note, a 16th note, and so on. What this implies is a whole note, 1/1, would be an entire bar. A quarter note would be the length of a beat. An eighth note would be the length of half a beat, so 1/8 of a whole bar. And if we actually look at my favorite delay plugin, Echo Boy by Soundtoys, you see that here it says half a note, a whole note, quarter note, eighth note. This would essentially be set to determine how often this plugin produces echoes. So at an eighth note, you get an echo every 1/8 of a bar, because a whole note is the same length as one entire bar. This is just useful to know in case you come across plugins like this and you're wondering what this number is. And also useful to know because sometimes you might come across things saying a quarter beat. It's essentially the same thing as what you know as a beat. It's exactly the same length of time. Now, grid lines, like I said, can be extremely useful for helping you create your music, place your elements in the right positions in the tracks. I'm just going to demonstrate this by taking a kick sound. Go for this one. I like it. This is part of the stock Ableton drum sounds. I'm going to drag and drop it in over here. I'm going to have the kick at the beginning of beat 1. Then I'm going to hold Option and drag it and copy it to the beginning of beat 2, the beginning of beat 3 and beat 4. Then I'll highlight the whole section, press Command D to duplicate it into the second bar. I'm going to highlight it all, press Command L, which will activate a loop around my highlighted section. Now if I press play, we're going to hear a normal drum pattern with the kick. Now let's continue. Let's build a very quick drum pattern using the beats and the bars that Ableton provides us through the grid lines. So we'll look for a quick snare. Sounds pretty good. Drag and drop it here. Copy it here. And here. And here. Every second beat. Let me go from the beginning. Cool. Let's quickly get a hi-hat, which we're actually going to place on the 8th note. We'll go for this short one. So we'll place here, here. So every 8th division, we're going to place the hi-hat. Let's have a quick listen. And we've got a perfectly in time drum rhythm. Now I could actually play this back slower by turning down the tempo. Fantastic. So you see how tempo and time signature are all related. You know, they really help you compose your rhythms and they help you place them in time. Now, the only way to really get these perfectly in time, if you didn't have the grid lines representing where the beats and the bars are, would be if you were playing a live instrument and you were playing to a metronome. A metronome would be ticking every single time a beat plays with the set tempo. We can actually activate a metronome in Ableton by clicking here, and this will produce a click. A click on every beat. And this is how musicians used to record their music back in the 70s and 80s, where we didn't actually have computers with digital audio workstations, which allowed us to easily place all of our drum sounds in time. I hope that this gives you a good understanding of time signature. However, don't worry too much about bogging yourself down into the details of this, because if you're producing any type of electronic music, you're most likely going to be working in a 4/4 time signature. Therefore, just leave it at that and focus on your productions, on your drum patterns, musical arrangement, melodies, and harmonies.